Welcome today as we share in looking at the prophet Jeremiah and his prediction for the changes that God will bring into the world to the people of Israel, and then looking at the Gospel of John, the very beginning of it. The Gospel of John tells the story of Jesus in a completely different way than the other Gospels do. While Matthew and Luke share Jesus' birth, and Mark begins at his baptism, John introduces Jesus as the one who brings about a new creation story. Both Genesis, the first book of the Bible, and the Gospel of John open with "in the beginning." They mark the start of something new and wonderful and profound. God is doing a new thing. Out of darkness comes light that brings hope and brings life. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people, the Gospel of John says. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. These words emanate hope, for we know all too well the darkness, the shadows that lurk in the corners of our lives and drum up worries and fears, the pitch black moments when we can't find our way, when we can't decipher which direction to turn. Light becomes our saving grace. Even just a little flicker of light changes our perception, casts a bit of brightness on the pathway that we might see a bit more clearly. What a gift of grace. John's Gospel tells us that God has given light, the properties of which cannot possibly be overcome by darkness. In a tangible way, we know this to be true when we stand in the midst of darkness, the darkness of night, and shine a flashlight so that we can choose our steps carefully. Suddenly, the light pushes back on the edges of darkness, allowing us to see more clearly and find greater confidence as we move forward. How much more significant is it to comprehend that we have access to an even more powerful light that illuminates our lives and shines hope in every corner, where fear, sorrow, pain, doubt, loneliness lurk in the dark shadows. How assuring and healing is it to know that there is an illuminating light within our souls, sparked by the internal spirit of love and grace at our fingertips, there for us to tap into, there for us to receive. That's grace upon grace. As if the gift of life were not enough, we are given light as well, so that instead of standing still lost in a sea of darkness, our way might be made more visible, that our lives might be more productive, fulfilling, and meaningful. This passage comes as we begin our journey into a new year, but it also marks a continuation of Christmas. For the gift of light we are given, John tells us, is made real in the life of Jesus. It is how we can actually see God. In John's words, we are told that no one has ever seen God, except that God's presence comes to us in the life of Jesus. It is how God makes God's self known. No one has ever seen God, but we know God in the works of Jesus, of others who have carried that light into the world, of those who continue to shine hope. I'm reminded of the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who just recently passed. You might recall we had plans to watch together the movie Mission Joy that featured Tutu and the Dalai Lama, their relationship and the essence of the joy their lives reflected in spite of the adversities that they both had experienced. What a gift of light they have given. The light of God's Spirit within them that shed brightness and hope onto the lives of others who encountered them. In the beginning holds increasing significance as we enter into another new year. It marks the opportunity to refresh, to restart, refocus, and reframe our lives. New Year's, of course, comes on the heels of Christmas that more and more quickly seems to fade into the background as we make resolutions, set plans, and make promises toward a new set of agendas for the year ahead. And while this is all well and good to embrace the opportunities before us with a sense of hopefulness, it is also important to keep the essence of Christmas alive in our hearts throughout the year. Make them part of our hopes and our dreams for the year, as Howard Thurman expressed in his poem, The Work of Christmas. He says, when the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, to make music in the heart. Most of us, no doubt, are eager to leave 2021 behind, at least some aspects of it. Through this year, our personal lives have been challenged, dreams shattered, plans changed. We've come face to face with our own mortality and that of those we love. We witness the shadows of darkness looming over our sense of community, of what it means to work together, of what it means to strive for a common good. We've seen our democracy threatened and our personal perspectives challenged. We've seen, if only on television, the violent forces of nature erupting in destruction across the earth in the form of fires and floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, heat waves, and drought, setting new records that we would rather not record on any charts. And while we know that none of these will go away just because our calendar turns the page to the beginning of a new year, it is in our human nature to see an in the beginning moment as we step over the threshold, and in that we find hope. Amanda Gorman, the inaugural poet, wrote this in her newly released poem. It's entitled A New Day's Lyric. And this is merely a part of her extraordinary poem that I invite you to read in full by just Googling it. It's what we need to hear and what we need to take to heart. She says, this hope is our door, our portal. Even if we never get back to normal, someday we can venture beyond it, to leave the known and take the first steps. So let us not return to what was normal, but reach toward what is next. It is then that we may rejoice as the prophet Jeremiah, who declared, their life shall become like a watered garden. Our lives, nourished, rich with growth, fruitful and vibrant. So may we enter into this new year, hand in hand, heart in heart, working toward the good that we might celebrate the grace and the grace that is always ours to receive. Amen.